Well, she's patiently been waiting for me to make another picture so she can go sit down. This is about the third one of these we're doing, maybe. Oh, hey, here's now. This is important. Y'all listen up on this one. This is the welded wire mesh. It's 5/32 in diameter. This is a fender washer, another fender washer behind it, and they call this an ordinary nut. That means it's not cadmium plated and it's full dimensions, just a black steel nut. But they call that ordinary, and this size is 7/16. 7/16 ordinary nut, 2 fender washers, and a 3-inch concrete nail. Some of them are 2.5-inch concrete nails. This one is holding 2 pieces. You see the welded wire mesh here is doubled. That's because the one coming up the wall goes up here, makes the second bend, and starts up the beam at the top. One on the beam is only half a sheet. Comes down to 2 feet of beam, down this angle, and down to pretty much out of view of the camera. They're still putting them up. They haven't got the second layer here. This chunk of rope is tied to 2 concrete nails, and that keeps all this stuff from falling out on the floor while they're trying to get some of it up leaning against the wall to get started. They're going to get the bottom ones nailed on with the yellow rope, and then they're going to have to take 2 guys to put the upper ones up off of a short scaffold or the pipe scaffold. But and later on we'll see how many of these they actually use. It looks like there's only 1 in 4 or 5 feet here, but that's an illusion. Also, you see the way the window jamb comes out of the forms. You can make this any shape you want, but the trick to the poured concrete is whatever shape you bit in the jamb, every window is exactly the same. They all interchange. You can have any kind of detail you want on it. You can't put the molding on the outside. Unless it was molding that went in, then you could do that. But as far as the part that goes in the wall, any shape you want. My wife made the forms for these, bandsaw, in our machine shop back home. And this is more of the welded wire mesh. No skim coat on the ceiling. 2018. That's to hang the circular stairs with, and there's for the outer ring. This is one of them. They're farther apart, and the landing would be up here on this end, and they start from down here on the floor down there. It's a mono stringer, 1 concrete stringer in the middle. This piece of wood does something, but I don't remember what. It's removable later, but it was not there. Besides being a form, there was a reason for it being there. I don't know what's behind it. But it did something, I just have no clue. Another view of the same room, same stuff. Okay, here's Boyette. He's not long camera shy today. He's actually going to smile for us. These blocks he's got on the table are the piece that goes in the windows. Actually, these go in the door frames. And that's what's going to... and the downstairs windows, the big windows have that same size. That's going to have a hole in the middle of it for a 3/4 inch bolt. That's used to line them up by putting bolts through that little plate and into the work table. And that gives us a way to wrap the flat bar around it to make the inner and outer rims like a wagon wheel. They're rolled round, but they need to be pulled together around the blocks, and the seams come together at the blocks. So there's no seam out between the blocks. We're going to have some more pictures of it. I'm not sure if that's sitting in the chop saw or what. Oh, that iron that was so crooked a picture or 2 ago, they've carried the rusty ones inside at this point, and that's or maybe that's the other half of them. Maybe they delivered them and put them in 2 piles. The Patlin's people are nice enough to help us get them up on the roof. Okay. He's got a putty knife over here with a handle on it. He's got one of those blocks here on the table. Now, I still don't know why that's standing on edge. Not a clue. But he's still happy. Okay. Takes a putty knife and he's going to put it down on the block. Going to draw a line corner to corner. And you see there's a center punch here, factory-made center punch. I had to ship those from the U.S. I could not find a center punch. And I looked at places like WALKAROUND, you know, major hardware stores. They got a tool all big as a Food Line supermarket, but they didn't have a center punch. Or anything even close to a center punch. Nothing you could misapply as a center punch. He's making these things over here. That's what he's trying to make. And they'll have a piece, a short piece cut on the shear that goes up at an angle and up at an angle. So it's a three-sided mount. But he's going from probably this pile thrown on the table here. Or maybe that's the ends, cut off ends, or what? You don't know what it is? What is it?
Yeah, he's marking these metal pieces.
Yeah, he's marking them.
So that he can take them to the
drill press. Right. Anyway, got a pencil, that's that little yellow thing. And he's marking one way and then he'll mark the other way, and then he takes a center punch and bangs a dent in it. And then he puts them on the other pile. When the pile gets about as heavy as he wants to carry, he'll carry them in and put them on a cable spool in there by the drill press. But he's going to go through and make 150 of them at a time. Okay, here we have rendering. This is Ruhel. He worked a manual hand pump out in the yard and pumped all the water for all the concrete that's in those columns out there and the floor slab on the ground, the grade slab. And I think some of the water for this up here, he carried it in buckets up and dumped it into barrels on the roof. I don't know how old he is, but he's not working anymore. But when that was the last kind of things he was doing when he was in his working life, was carrying water. He tends rice fields over to the side over here. I don't know how many he's got. About 1.5, maybe 2 hectares, something like that. I think this is Sias before we knew what his name was. Anyway, we hired in.
Joe Mill.
Huh? No, that's not Joe Mill. Joe Mill doesn't have clothes like that, and it doesn't look like Joe Mill. Anyway, we hired 2 or 3 extra guys that knew the people that worked with us, and they recommended them, and they were all good help. And we told them that it was not permanent. It was just doing rendering and some stuff. We were trying to get some things done before we went back to the States, and we were just adding labor to try to get to the stopping point we've been aiming for. So they'll come in and work really hard. If we need them, we'll hire them again. He's got a trowel. I don't know that he uses them, but he's got one. Oh, okay, this is our artist. He's done the paintings that hang on the walls in our house in the U.S. and one on the porch here in the Philippines. He does acrylics and water-based paints, and he's a professional ice carver. He carves statues for casinos and weddings and things. But there wasn't a lot of work after he got down here. The casino or whatever he was going to work at went bust. They didn't do any maintenance on their facility, and it went to crap, and nobody would come there anymore. So him and his brother were doing that together. We got this one. I don't know where the brother works.
He did
the
concrete statue.
Oh, yeah, he built all the concrete statue. The guys downstairs, the 3 wise men, the sheep, the donkey, baby donkey, baby Jesus, Mary, Joseph, the whole cast. And we worked him a whole work season on that. He likes doing that. He's doing rendering today. He came to us as a painter, and he was thinking painting pictures, you know, landscapes. And we were thinking, can you paint concrete? You know, so we put him on to paint the house we live in. And he's good-natured. I told him, if you find something better, something that pays more, there's no hard feelings. Take the better-paying job. You run out, come back and see us. So he's worked for us 2 or 3 times when he's between any kind of a major job. Anyway, he's also a pretty damn good barber. He does that professionally as well. And a little concentration there. This little white wire run across to a neighbor's house. When we have electricity, that's how it gets to us. We can't get Moralco to hook us up. But this square box on the end, we got that to repair an extension cord. That if you have to put a extension plug in on, you can buy a plug of sorts here. There's some at Wilcon that are actually pretty decent quality. Normally they're pretty crappy. But they don't have the receptacle end to put on a cord. You mess that end up, you're out of luck. But these handy boxes that mount 2 receptacles, and then you have a cover that has for 4 plugs. It's $3.70 for all the pieces, including the 2 receptacles at Terry's hardware store. I put 2 or 3 sets of them in the box just in case I needed them for something. So when we tore up the first extension cord, I went and got one and put it on there because I couldn't buy the thing. So you can see there's 2 of them plugged in, and somebody's like changing a drill bit or changing a blade on a chop saw or something. They unplug everything before they work on it. But that little wire going away, that's our lifeline to a neighbor. And that's worked out all right so far. Oh, the render around these windows, they're going to trim that with a diamond blade on an angle grinder, 1.5 inch back, then drive 2-inch concrete nails in at an angle, and go nail to nail all over the place with the tie wire to anchor the little bit of concrete that's going to attach this render to this cast-in-place window frame, so it makes a crisp corner all the way around. We come up with that scheme for these windows, and now we use it on any place we have attached concrete. We have a bonding agent here. I brought it from the States, but that's what we're using. Just a lanai. I don't see anything noteworthy. It's on the front of the house because that's where they deliver the flat bar to, down here in the bottom of the corner. Shows you the bottom tie beam, top carry beam, and a wall with a window. That's one casting. These walls that go left to right, they were put in last. There's 5 of these around the building and 5 outer ones. So at that point you could walk anywhere you wanted. You just walk around the end of a wall and just keep on walking. But we put these in with the same forms. This is what happens when you attach render to concrete with no mechanical fasteners at all. This cracked and fell off, and luckily nobody was underneath of it. There's another piece fell off over the construction stairs over there. So you see there's a gap behind it. It does that when it cures. So just before we went on to lockdown, and we're stage 4 lockdown. I don't know when they're going to lift ours. Everybody else will be back to work and we'll still be at the house. It got a layer of 3-inch concrete nails at the top and at the bottom, about 1.25 inches from the edge. And those are into 5.5 millimeter holes. And then a 4 millimeter drilled hole for some 2-inch nails around here. And we didn't get the wire wrapped all around, in and out and back and forth and diagonal, nail to nail. The wire's not on it, but the nails are pretty much in. And he's got a roll-around frame that anchors in the center of this roof that carries a molding plate. They call it a forma here, F-O-R-M-A. It's like a form. It'll make a round top, a reverse, a little round thing, a skirt out, back from the skirt, round around the bottom, and then another piece of bolt-on flat bar goes up there and cuts that corner. That way this has got a sharp corner down, so when the water runs off of that roof, it comes off here rather than back up there and fall on you on the lanai. So, but that's a work in progress. This shape is crooked, but it's not as crooked as the camera's making it look. I still don't know how I do that. See here, that big bump has gone away now. That one there's still there. Maybe that may be a real bump. Maybe it looks like that. But where we had a big divot going through here is now straight. And see, we were standing looking at this, so that kink that was there apparently isn't there either. Or else it just can't, the picture went the other way, you know, and it hit it. But that's how long of a piece fell out. And that's enough to hurt somebody. We don't have children playing on top of the house because they could fall off. And only the ones that live here is really ever up on the house or in it. They're pretty careful kids. They're not. There's not a problem amongst them. We had one that was a little wild, but he moved to Masbate with a relative. And this must be all the same day because he's knocking those things out, and the pile has gone from here to there. So this is later than the other picture. And this is as steep as it looks. It's just so we could have some kind of purchases or grip for these stair runners onto this roof up here. They're wide because we push our cement mixer up here, and then when it goes over the top, all we have to do is steer it walking down the stairs. And the cement mixers go up and down off the roof as we need them. They've been up there for a year now, the ones on the top roof, and the one on the ground's been on the ground for a year. But we can move either one of them to the opposite place if we need it. Wasn't it nice to find boards with all these compound curves that match each other? And a wide one and narrow ones? Oh, this is what you do when you're taking sand from that pile, throwing the rocks over here, and the rest of the sand over there. And the screen sand goes in bags. We did 40 cubic meters through that. This is what phenolic board looks like after it gets wet. The marine plywood looks worse, but the phenolic board looks pretty bad all on its own. These are forms on the side from the spider beam. They already had a 2x3 backings on it, and the phenolic board was only used once. So we some people using them for beds because we had 20 of them, and 4 of them went into this staircase. That's a form 12 feet long, then a patched piece of 3/4 plywood about 4 feet long, and then the other form going to the ground. So that's about 24 feet. And the form squared off here, so that's what this triangle is added to get the weight onto the cement. That's just laying there. There's one like that on the other side, but it's concrete we just poured on top of the roof. It's covering a hole where we want to use a water drill and drill a house well underneath of the kitchen sink. So we left a place in the roof to run the drill rod up through. It's trying to escape. It won't make it. There's a ditch over there. I'm not sure why it's headed out back, but it is. Well, the septic tank's right over here. Might be where they're getting ready to pour the septic tank. There's 2 videos on our experiences with because the battery ran. That's why there's 2. There's actually a short video in this series. It tells you what you can expect to fail and how many bags mixed it will fail, and what you do about it so it'll never fail again. The repairs are dirt cheap. You wonder why they didn't do it when they made it. You wonder why they use used tires and rims on them, but it looks like Peugeot rims on this one. This is a better picture of starting to put the 2 flat washers, two fender washers, 7/16 ordinary nut, and a 2.5 inch so concrete nail. This shovel's not stuck into the concrete. That's the shape it wears to when you use it too much against concrete. Same picture. Might be showing a little better. I caught the light better to show you how many of these things are in this wall holding that mesh. It can be completely separate from the house and it won't fall away. But if you don't, do something. You get those tiny ants up behind it. This, of course, is not that crooked. This probably is that crooked. This is the original construction stairs. It was all built out of experienced cocoa lumber, and it served us well enough to put this whole roof slab up, the spider beam, and the floor above it. No complaints. We've had to take all the treads out of it this year, and so we switched them out to it's not only good wood. What they delivered looks to me like mahogany. So we put 2 coats of paint on it because we got to turn it into furniture someday. And there really are that many props. This is one of those forms that we call them stands. You have 4 uprights, the top and the bottom, and a diagonal brace. So it looks like a lot of pieces, but it was pre-made. All we had to do was carry it up there. And then we made one here for this end that looks similar to it. I think we probably just cut one in half and change the diagonal brace out. It's probably half here and half on the other end. But that's all repurposed stuff. And it's still up there today. That part has been fine. It was covered up by phenolic board, so direct rain and direct sun doesn't hit it because the sun comes from over there mostly. Evening sun comes from over here, but it's not that intense. Cistern. There's the gray water and black water are buried in here. They're all set with a transit. Just absolutely as close as we can make them to 1 in 48 for the slope. And when we buy them, there will be some clean-out plugs up here. But until we do the landscaping, we don't know how much pipe to have above so that it won't be sticking up a foot out of the landscaping, but won't be buried either. So rather than do that, we just took whatever piece of pipe was left over while we were doing pipe, and we just stuck them in there. They are glued at the bottom. When we cut them off, you know, we can add a coupling and a cap. This is how many rebars somebody thought was necessary to hold this mono stringer wrapping around down here. It hangs from that and sits on the floor. It's not connected to anything else. So there's going to be a fair amount of rebar in it. And this is wider because that's the landing for the stairs when you go up through this hole right here. You see how it's coming out? If the roof ended right there, you'd only have about a foot and a half to step on before bad things happen. So we knew what we were making here because we drew this up in CAD, the whole staircase and the forms to make it and placed it and everything like that. So we knew we needed concrete, and we cast that slab with that extra piece in it. And then it goes out again here because this wall would have been 8 feet farther back. This would have been a lanai, and this would have been one of the little bitty rooms. But we kicked it the other way because we needed space to walk around the helical stairs between it and the wall. 14 inches wasn't enough to wiggle through, so we just carried it out and made it 4 feet. And this is a longer wall than the rest, so that it had an extra length of form in it, extra 4 feet of form. And the 2-inch screen, and everything else we've already talked about at least once. This is the outside of that same offset wall. You can tell how long it is and see how much roof overhang we have over the window. Because of the outside shape, among other things, we haven't got as much overhang here at the ends as we do in the middle because it's a curve on a straight wall. Draw a straight line across the curve, it's bigger in the middle. But down here we could have done something a little different, but we wanted to make it all look the same. So that's what we did. If it's structurally sound, you can do it here. Oh, and then you can see about how many of these washers are showing here. We start off with about 18 inches apart, and then if there's a bump in the wire, we put one in the middle of the bump and knock it in, you know, with the nail. That's how we come up with this scheme. Instead of tying, we were tying them with wire, the inside mat to the outside mat, using those 3/4 inch PVC pipe holes to run the wire through. It was slow, aggravating, it wasn't near as solidly attached, because we made these wire things specially with a little tool that had a loop here that set on top of the concrete, so when you pulled it down, it was a little springy, but it spaced it away. It gave you that half-inch clearance we was looking for. But once we stuck a few of these out in the middle, that was the end of those. I didn't like them. They didn't like them. And we just decided to... I don't know if anybody really decided. We just started driving in nails and left that pile of those made-up things sitting down there. I know what this is showing. They're showing that they have rendered this wall. That's not the poured concrete. That is render. And that's when they got to the corner. They haven't rendered this yet. That's what they're trying to show here. And a little bit of joint work where two pieces of plywood came together up there. Oak has been up there. In fact, I think Oak probably rendered most of this. He was on that corner of the building for a week, which is not long to render a wall 30-some feet long. It just shows you across the street, almost to the vulcanizing shop over here. We have such wonderful things of views off the front. Lanai one. Eventually, circular spiral stairs goes in there. They're not helical, these ones are spiral. Back to that. I didn't go backwards with the camera. Oh, I guess we're going to show you how to adjust this. She's got her 19mm wrench up there. And to start these things in here, the first one, we put them in there and then we run the down so many flats. It's like 21 flats or 21.5 flats. You get 6 flats to the turn. So if you're going to 21, you go 3 quick turns, that's 18, and then 3 is half a turn. The wrench would be out here. And some things that you're bending really sharp, you actually do that on every piece you roll. If you're doing a gradual thing where you can shove it between the rollers, or the other thing we do is we take it and hook it under the table here, and the last 6 inches of the thing, we bend it up a little bit with an adjustable wrench. And that makes it jump over the far side roller, and then just roll it without adjusting anything. If you make an adjustment and roll a curve, and then you want a little bit more, forget it. It's not happening. It won't roll the same on the next piece. It'll be a different radius altogether. And you have to straighten those out, and in the end you use them for things that are straight, or you just fiddle with them until you get them to the right radius. But you have to have unbent metal for this. Oh, the video's too long. Goodbye for now. Have a good time. Won't stop. I would turn it off if I could.